I mean the connections, the bandwidth between devices in the sense between routers, etc. So due to these problems, they will not be able to handle the data what a source is sending. I'll tell you one simple example for this in easy words to understand. Okay, same. You have a computer and your LAN speed is uh, your network LAN's speed is somewhere around 100 Mbps. Okay, you have a speed of 100 Mbps, and your internet is say 40 Mbps only. Your computer is capable to handle much beyond 100 Mbps. So if you send data in 100 Mbps speed through your LAN interface to the router will fail to send it over a link of 40 Mbps. Then what will happen there? Your router will try to buffer it if he has got buffer. Okay, whatever it is, it can send only in 40 Mbps or 50 Mbps of your internet links capacity. So remaining data, what it will happen for the remaining data, that is the problem here. The issue is it will store in buffer and it will send one by one as and when he gets time slots. So first problem is there is a delay because of this problem. Long delays will take place. That is the manifestations here. And second is, if the buffer is full, what will happen for the remaining packet? It's all signals, right? Signals cannot be retained. It will simply wasted. It will get grounded. So what will happen? If the buffer is full, lost packets will takes place. So these are the two issues. Hope you understood this very clear. What is congestion? It is not happening at the device. It is happening in the network. That point you have to be very careful. Okay. Flow control is the one which takes care of systems overflow. Okay. Congestion control is the one which takes care of what? Network overflow. If somebody asks you to differentiate between flow control and congestion control, you have to say, you have to start your explanation in this way. Okay. Now, there are two, three reasons they have discussed in the textbook. I would suggest you to read that once or twice. I'll explain one scenario for your understanding. Okay. So here you call it as how do you read this? One of you tell me. I forgot. Lambda, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me say you have two devices here, host A, host B, and this fellow can send both these fellows. Let us assume that it can send data in lambda in capacity. So basically, this is the bandwidth of your machine. Okay, and you have destination machines which can be accepted in terms of lambda out. So this lambda in lambda out will get a compromise and they will decide a single lambda, maybe lambda, simply just lambda, it will just decide it, because in connection establishment this is one parameter which will be decided by using CWIND field. Okay, the window field will take a call to decide this. Anyway, that is not our discussion point here. So here, both these fellows can send data in terms of lambda in. And now the problem here is this fellow can send data in R bandwidth. The router's output bandwidth is R. Now, essentially, each one of these fellows, host A will get R by 2. Host B also will get R by 2. That is how the division will take place, right, in multiplexing. So that is what you can see from the graph. Both these fellows together, it has to reach R by 2. Okay. So lambda out, lambda in, whatever you are sending, whatever you are receiving, should maximum capacity is R by 2. Okay, one fellow's maximum capacity is R by 2. Once it is reaching R by 2, you cannot increase further. The bandwidth will get stopped over there. Now, once it is reached R by 2, you will face problems like data loss and so much delay. Okay, so these are the two symptoms for understanding the congestion in a network. Is this point clear, guys? Is this points clear? Can I continue? Hello, am I audible? Nobody is there.
Yes, sir.
Online. What happened? Okay. Then in scenario 2, what they have discussed is the buffer capacity problem. In the first issue, in the first case scenario, we have not discussed anything about buffer size. We assumed that the router has got sufficient buffer, and deleting data in the buffer is not, deleting data in the router is not happening. Due to buffer is not available. If buffer is not available to store data, it will simply discard the data. That is what basically happens. Okay, so that we have not discussed in the case 1. In case 2, that is also a discussion point. Okay, and now here one more point that they have brought in is lambda dash in. So if you lost a packet in TCP connection, we know that data will be retransmitted after time expires. Okay, after time expires, it will be retransmitted. So your new data requirement is, or bandwidth requirement is lambda dash in. What is the problem here? Your original data will be sent as it is, plus your retransmitted data also will go, which will cause additional congestion to the network. Once if your network started congestion, then the problem will have a cascading effect. Okay, so how do you sort out this problem? By knowing perfectly what is the buffer size of the router, etc. So there are few tricks what we use to understand this. We'll discuss them in a short while. I'm just moving on little fast. I'm assuming that you will read textbook on this portions. Okay. The first point here is how do you handle this? Perfect knowledge by knowing what is the buffer size. Second is if you know the loss, how much loss is happening, by seeing that you can guess what should be the next fellow's capacity. Okay, or what should be sent. Okay, so here a loss is happened, time is out, then he will resend the packet. Okay, see now twice the data is gone. Fine. Then you may send duplicates. How is that takes place? There is a delay happened here in the buffer. Okay, delay happened in the buffer. Hence, the timeout of the sender is over, so he will retransmit. Have you understood this this case? You have studied this retransmission situation. That's why I'm just not explaining too much on this. Okay, so due to delay, if you are retransmitting, it is not increasing your good put, but your throughput will be increased. Hope you remember the difference between throughput and good put, which I have already explained in the beginning initial classes. Okay, so you have understood the cost of congestion, because it will increase the throughput, but your good put is not increasing. Good put is how much actual data, good data which you have received, how much actual data you have received. Throughput is including your header, how much data is received. Okay. See, you are receiving a packet twice. It is actually throughput is double. You have received that data, but goodput is you're taking only once that particular data. So that is what you mean by goodput. Okay. Now I'll move on from all these topics. You may please read those cases, okay, congestion cases. I'm not explaining them too much. And how do you manage congestion control? So for exams, the questions can be, or interviews, the questions can be, what do you mean by congestion control? How you can understand and control congestions, or compare congestion and flow control. Okay, these are common questions which we have seen for exams and interviews. Okay. So there are two types of congestion controls. One is end-to-end congestion control, and second one is network-assisted congestion control. End-to-end congestion control means it will be controlled by the devices on both the sides. Okay, the sender and receiver. So here, no explicit feedback from network. Network is not sending any feedback. Okay. Say we have seen a situation like buffer. In the buffer, your data got parked for some time, and then it is forwarded. So there was a delay happened. So the network is not aware that there is a delay occurred. Okay, in that case, though network is aware, but for him everything went fine, right? So he don't bother about it. But as far as your device is considered or concerned, there is a delay occurred. Okay, that is what end-to-end congestion control over there. No explicit feedback from network. Okay. So how congestion is inferred or understood by the devices? By observing the loss or delay. Okay, so much retransmission, that is a cause of congestion. Okay, and this is understood and handled by TCP. Then next is network assisted congestion control. That is the router provide feedback to end systems. Then single bit indicating congestion, that is SNA, DEC bit, TCP IP, ECN, ATM, etc. So the protocols what you use for network or the data link layer in wide area network, they have been used to inform the devices that there is a congestion, and mostly this will takes place by using TCP/IP. TCP/IP is ICMP protocol, Internet Control Messaging Protocol. You have seen when you use ping command, it uses ICMP. When you use traceroute, it uses ICMP. So if a router removes a packet or discards a packet due to maybe buffer is full or destination is not reachable, in all these cases, router will send back an acknowledgement. Router will send back a message to the original machine, the initiated machine, by using ICMP protocol. So that is what we call as network assisted congestion control. Okay. In the textbook, they have mentioned all these protocols, but more than this, they use ICMP protocol for this purpose. So that is these 2 points you have to remember. We are not going to discuss how asynchronous transfer mode protocol. ATM is another protocol which used for layer 2 in wide area networks. We are not discussing this at this moment. We may discuss this later after we discuss some more topics. I'm skipping this as of now. Okay. So this case study, maybe you can just read later from the textbook. I'm skipping that. Okay. Now we are interested in the last part of this chapter, that is TCP congestion control. In TCP congestion control, how TCP is handling congestion. So the approach is sender increases transmission rate, that is window size, probing for usable bandwidth until loss occurs. Okay. Say, what do you mean? What do you mean by this? Suppose you are carrying some weight. So what we will do is, say suppose you are carrying bricks. Let's assume. So I'll put one brick initially on your shoulder or head. Then I'll put one more brick. I'll put one more brick. I'll put one more brick until unless you say no, stop it. I'll keep on adding. So that is what I'm saying, additive increase. I'll be adding only one by one. Okay. And then once I understand, okay, you have reached to the maximum, then what I'll do is I'll just decrease 2 or 4 or 6, something like that. The reason is, what I understand is, it's not only by keeping on your shoulder, you may have to carry it for some 100 meters or something and then drop it somewhere else. So if your maximum capacity is 10 bricks, to carry 10 bricks to 100 meters will be very tough for each one of us. So maybe what I'll do is I'll take out 2 from you, from the stack, so that you can carry 8 to the destination easily. Your maximum capacity is 10 to carry it, carry and walk. Maybe 8 will be easy for you. Okay. So in technical terms, when it comes into our networking, we talk with our technical words. That is the window size, increase window size by 1 MSS, maximum segment size. You know what is MSS, and MTU also you know, right? Maximum transmission unit. Maximum transmission unit is including header information. MSS is without header information. So the window size will be increased by 1 MSS. Okay. Once any loss is occurred, the window size will be just become half. Suppose if it is 10, initially the window size will be reduced to 5. In additive increase, while sending it will increase one by one. It will not increase multiplicativity. Whereas while decreasing, it will be multiplicative decrease. That's what it is explained here. Okay. So it is adding one by one. When there is a loss, it will drastically fall down. See the graph, how it's going. Is this point clear, guys? How TCP is handling congestion? You have to answer this. Okay. One is additive increase, other one is multiplicative decrease. These are the two methods what you all adopt. Rest all are explanation of all the points what we have said already. Okay. I think I have one graph. Yeah, this graph you can use. So TCP is basically does a slow start. Okay, so slow start you just see from here. You have can you see my mouse pointer? No. It will send one segment. Once it is reached the destination, it will send back an acknowledgement. So the time gap between sending and receiving acknowledgement is known as RTT. Sending data and receiving acknowledgement is known as RTT. Once the time is expired, I mean RTT you have understood. I mean your system have understood now. Once one acknowledgement is received, he will send 2 packets. Now both the acknowledgement is received, it will send 4 packets. It will just increase one by one. For every acknowledgement, it will increase 1. Okay. For every acknowledgement, it will increase 1. Is this point clear, guys? See, one acknowledgement is received, 2 packets will be sent. One more acknowledgement is received, 2 packets is sent. Ideally speaking, for every time, it will increase number of packets to the double. So one will go, Here 2 will go, here 4 will go, next time 8 will go. That is how it goes. Okay. So if one acknowledgement is lost, in multiplicative decrease, what it will happen? If one acknowledgement is lost, see in this case 4 have gone. Okay, four segments have gone. I'm waiting for 4 acknowledgements. If one acknowledgement is not received, then next time it will send only half of it. That is what decrease is multiplicative decrease, whereas increase is additive increase. Hope you understood what is that logic. Okay. So how loss is identified? By using timeout. Okay. So window size will be just half. That's all the point here. So that's all you need to understand here in congestion control. There are few more additional points they have discussed, but they are not very much important for us, I feel. So I'm just skipping all this calculations and other things. Okay. So that's all in this chapter we wanted to discuss. So let me stop with this. Okay. If you have any doubts related to this, you can ask me, or else we'll continue with next chapter. Next chapter. Any doubts, guys, as of now?
So in that previous graph, like it was sending first one message, then 2 message, then 4. So that is also like an exponential growth. So that is not additive increase, right?
No, it is not exponential growth. That's what I was emphasizing actually. When you are getting one acknowledgement, it will increase. It will send 2 packets. Okay. Initially, you are getting only one acknowledgement. You are sending 2 packets. For 2 packets, you will receive 2 acknowledgements. When you receive 2 acknowledgements, you are sending 4 packets. You got it?
So next is 8, then 16, right, sir?
Yes, yes, it will go like that. Till it hits till it detects a loss of acknowledgement, it will go like that.
So when we hit a loss at 128, then it will send 64.
It will the subsequent thing, it will send only 64. That is decreasing is just by half, but increasing is +1. For one acknowledgement, 1 increase, but for one loss, it is half. It will be reducing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Maybe you take a break of 1 minute, then I'll continue with next chapter. Am I audible? Can we continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this chapter is basically we will be concentrating on network layer. For network engineers, this chapter is quite important. Network layer is very important. Okay. So those who are more into socket programming and network application development and all, for them, the previous chapter is more important compared to this. Okay. This also is important for them if you are planning for some network related projects and all in your BTech. Anyway, so in this basically we will be discussing few points, that is network layer service models, forwarding versus routing, how router works, routing, how path selection is taking place, then the difference between broadcast and multicast. So these are the few points what we will be discussing in this chapter. Okay. So the initial two, three topics are just we can pass through. It's not much significant for us. But from 4.4 onwards, it's very important for us. Okay. So now, what is network layer and what is its functions? This already we have discussed when we discussed TCP/IP in chapter number 1. So can you read this and try to understand the self? I hope all of you are reading textbooks, right? Any textbook of that matter you can read, okay? It's not necessary that you have to read the same textbook. Okay. Which all devices network layer is present? This is one interview question they ask sometimes, okay? Can anyone of you tell me?
Routers.
Louder.
Say routers.
Yes, router, it's correct. Apart from that,
Switches.
switches is a wrong answer. That's a layer 2 device basically. It can read up to layer 2 information. It cannot read the IP address and all, okay? If you
Yeah.
say layer 3 switch, that is correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Apart from router, you can say your computer, the hosts, the end devices, all of them has got an IP address and it is making packet, etc. So it is encapsulating into packet, it is encapsulating packet into segment, etc. So all end devices, you can say they are having a network layer. Okay. End devices, of course, they have got transport layer and application layer in them, but network layer also is there. Not only network layer, even data link layer also is there because it has got an interface connected to network cable. Okay. And yes, it has got layer 1 also because a cable is connected to that. The hardware is part of it. So router, you can say it belongs to, or it works on, it works up to layer 3. That's a right statement we can say. It has got physical layer in it. It has got data link layer in it. It has got network layer in it. So a router is working up to network layer. That's a right statement. Similarly, a computer is working up to layer 7. It is working on all the 7 layers. Okay. Similarly, a firewall. Firewall is a device which works on all the 7 layers. These all are few interview tips, okay? Hope all these points are clear now. On sending side, encapsulates segments into packets. I prefer you to use packet instead of datagrams, okay? I told you the reason. Internationally, people use the word packet instead of datagram for transport for network layer PDU, okay? But unfortunately, in our textbook, they use datagrams, which is not understood well by industry people. For exams, you are expected to answer packets only, okay? On receiving side, but our university exam, we do consider even if you write datagrams, okay? We don't, we know that it is like that in the textbook. Network layer protocols in every host and router, okay? A router examines header fields in all IP datagrams passing through it, okay? So the devices, they are working on all the 7 layers. With respect to TCP IP, they are working on all the 5 layers. Okay. So two key network layer functions. One is forwarding and the other one is routing. Routing is determining the route, the best route at any point of time. That is what we can define as routing. Forwarding is once it is decided the interface through which it has to go. Placing the data onto that interface is known as forwarding. Forwarding is essentially a process of layer 2, whereas routing is a process of layer 3. So that is what the difference between routing and forwarding. Please do remember this. Interviewers, they'll ask. Okay. Now see the diagram here. You can understand it a little better. Just try to understand. You understood what I said in the previous slide? Why your class is so silent nowadays? Otherwise, you used to make so much interaction in the class. It's most of you are in sleepy mode. Where is Priya? She is not in attending today. Is Priya present?
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Okay. Is it clear, Ma?
Sir, you were
sir.
muted for a few minutes. Did you do it or?
I only did it.
Okay. Yes.
Somebody walked into my lab, so I just muted myself.
Yes, sir. Because all of us are present. Oh.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay. I saw 122 students are present today. Yes, correct. Okay. I hope this is.
Sir,
Yeah. Yeah, please.
sir, okay. Yes, I was mentioning about attendees, like in between the removing part also happened. Am I audible, sir? Maybe
Uh,
from next class onwards.
okay, okay. No, I forgot to do that settings. If it happens, just bring into my notice immediately during session. So I'll change the. Usually I do change the settings, but today I missed to do it. I'm sorry for that. It's my mistake.
It's fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So let me continue here with a very basic thing. So here you have a routing algorithm. Every router, it has got a routing algorithm. It may be it is working behind the routing protocols. Okay, routing protocols, something like RIP, POS, PF, EA, GRP, BGP. All these are various routing protocols. In every router, there is a routing protocol. Routing protocol is what interact with other routers and get the updates and give the updates. It's give and take policy. Okay, so every protocol there is a algorithm working behind it. There is a program working behind it, and this algorithm will produce the routing table in that router. That's what it is mentioned here. Okay, and the routing table is basically the network address, destination network address, and through which link it can be reached. Okay. If you look at the router, what is mentioned there, that's what highlighted. It has got three interfaces, 1, 2, 3, and there are some 4 entries in the routing table. There will be thousands of entries mostly in any routing table. So here, for example, they have taken only 4, and each of them are mapped to one output link, only one output link. Okay, and it is possible to link to multiple output links as well. In that case, load balancing will take place. We are not getting into that deep now. So anyway, when a packet is arriving, the destination IP address, it will be seen in the packet, and that will be checked in the routing table. Suppose here in this example, the destination IP address is 0111. Okay, it's given in binary. It's not a issue for us, and that is mapping with matching with third entry in the routing table. So your data will be forwarded via second interface. That decision is taken. Okay, that is what we call as routing. Now the problem is it has come via one interface that is not numbered. Let me number it as 4. It is come via interface 4 and it has to go out via interface 2. So now placing the data from 4 to 2 is what we call as forwarding. Okay, placing from 4 to 2 is what we call as forwarding. It is not simply placing it. Okay, it has to change the layer 2 header information, etc. So there are works involved in it. Okay, so hope you understood what is routing and forwarding now clearly.
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, you told like in routing it decides the output link, in forwarding it forwards it. And sir, you also told before like routing, I think yes, routing works in the third layer, network layer, and forwarding works in the second layer.
Correct.
So routing will happen afterwards, no sir?
No, routing decision will take place first, then forwarding will take place.
Because sir, if we go from the below layer to the above layer, that network layer, so the routing should happen after forwarding, and yeah, that is required in decision making, but that may not contradict like the two things.
Okay. Okay. I understood your confusion. I'll clear it, Sachin.
Yes.
Okay. So here when data is coming, okay, when data is coming, this interface has to accept it, first of all. So that happens in layer 2. The data header of layer 2 will get removed here, as and when it is entering via interface number 4. You understood that much?
Yes, sir.
Then it will look at IP address and takes a decision that it has to go via 2. That is what we call as routing. Okay. Now
Okay.
the data has to be placed on interface number 2. Got it? Now the source MAC address will be MAC address of interface 2. Destination MAC address will be the next router's incoming interface MAC address. So this data has to be placed on the packet header. Now it is just packet. When it is placing to 2, it has to be frame. Did I answer for your question now? Is it clear, Sachin, now? Is that you asked? Hello?
Sir, he has some network issues, sir. That's why.
Okay, I hope I answered. Is it clear to everybody? Okay. Now, let us understand a little more deeper. So in layer 3, we know that it will be using IP protocol, Internet protocol. And its next layer, it will be using, in wide area network, it will be using ATM or frame relay or X.25. There are many other protocols also, MPLS, like that, many other protocols are there. So in layer 2, it uses one of this protocol. Let us understand. Okay. It is not Ethernet. It is not going to be Ethernet protocol. Okay. Ethernet is used only in our local area network. In wide area network, it will be using some other protocols like ATM, frame relay, X.25, etc. Okay. And we will come across these protocols in the coming chapter. So let us, you just be familiar with the names. Okay, ATM, frame relay, X.25, etc. Okay. Then before datagrams flow, two end host and intervening routers establish virtual connection. Routers get involved. Okay. So that is one type of connection. Okay. Before datagrams flow, two end host and intervening routers establish a virtual connection. When you make a telephone call, before you start talking, your phone and your other side phone will get connected. The complete line is yours. That is what they call here. They say here. In computer communication also that is possible. That is what we call as virtual circuits. Okay. The circuits partially or completely will be used by somebody else later, but when you are using, it is yours. That is what you call as virtual circuit. Network versus transport layer connection service. Network between two hosts may also involve intervening routers in case of virtual circuits. In transport layer, it is just between two processors, between two sockets. I mean, between two applications basically. Okay. So in transport layer, it is between two processors, and in network layer, it is between two computers. Okay. So that is the difference between network versus transport layer connection. In network layer, the connection established between two devices. In transport layer, the three-way handshake or three-way handshake to terminate, it is all dealing with two processes, two applications basically. Okay, you have to use the word processes here. Okay, not applications. Hope you understood that. Okay. What is the service model for channel transporting datagrams from sender to receiver? So if you are using service, what all examples or what all services you are expecting for while delivering the data? One is guaranteed delivery. Guaranteed delivery when less than 40 microseconds delay. So in order datagram delivery, guaranteed minimum bandwidth to flow, restrictions or changes in inter packet spacing. These all are the services for a flow of datagrams. Okay. Do I need to explain this? I'm not very sure. They are self-explanatory, I guess. So you are expecting the data to be delivered in order so that work will be very easy at the receiver. And you are expecting a minimum bandwidth to flow. That is another point. Then restrictions on changes in interpacket spacing. That is after sending one packet, how much time you have to wait. That is what you mean by interpacket spacing. So let us continue from here on tomorrow's class, next week's class. Please do read textbooks thoroughly, okay? Especially for TCP, the last class, okay? Okay, so let us discuss this table and remaining things tomorrow's class.